So when we, the difference between Ananda and Soma, of course there are overlays. Of course this is like all intricately interconnected. But Ananda, it's already a quality of absolute, as that trinity of the Satchitananda. Whereas Soma, it's the byproduct of alchemic transformation. So to simplify this, and the whole narrative of the fall can be viewed, the whole narrative of fall out of grace, fall out of paradise, paradise lost, and can be viewed in terms of gradual maturity of the physiology, that we first like basking in that beauty as children, and the soma is there in abundance. In a baby, it just flows there non-stop. And this is why it is so infectious and so extraordinary. We can see this yet uncoagulated, really, really bundle of bliss. Literally, that's what babies are. It's a bundle of bliss. There's another beautiful way of how Osho spoke about women and mothers, with so much tenderness, when he says that when a child looks at the world, it looks like God. And when mother looks at the child, she sees her soul in the child's eyes, in the child's face. And as the child grows, mother grows with the child. Such a beautiful, simple analogy, so needed in our culture today, so effed up in terms of that profound and profoundly important rite of passage, so that we come here as a whole beings, carried fully, not some kind of phase to get over with and back to business, So this quality, of course, is at a given, and with the kick-in of the respective glands responsible for maturation and growth, especially rapid growth in the age of puberty, when the thyroid glands take over. It is at the expense of consciousness literally sinking down. Consciousness had to move down, and the thyroid gland, the hypophysis, is from there on in charge, and at the expense of gradually shrinking activity of the higher glands, pineal and pituitary respectively. So what happens at the level of physiology? Perhaps that's what called fall from grace, fall from paradise. And this is where, the age of puberty, right? When we suddenly become aware of our sexuality. Adam and Eve suddenly become aware of being naked, suddenly become aware of that, that whole Christian now language, right? We can discern, we can decode that Christian way of speaking about it, that Christian mystery, and see this in terms of neurophysiological processes. So that fall from grace, fall from paradise is a necessary part of self-discovery, because the ego now have to take over. And the thyroid gland here also represents the maturity, but also the decay of the organism. Aging is being checked by thyroid gland. Activity of the thyroid gland is all this now, all there is. And other glands are in dormancy, they fall into dormancy. So the yogic process really is a reversal of that fall from paradise. That's what yogic alchemy was always about. A reversal of that and reactivation, rekindling of the glands, which by then shrunk completely. So rekindling of that process is accompanied by extraordinary, in every way, reawakening of the higher centers. And as soon as that takes place, it is accompanied by the unleashing of the somic quality, because it's there all the time, but the valve, as it were, was closed, blocked, locked, calcified. And when that is reversed, rekindled, then soma flows into the body. Something else, of course, happens we maybe should speak on, because it's accompanied by some very intricate nuances without which this also would be, if taken at the face value, misunderstood. But just to add to this is, once the soma begins to flow into the body from neurophysiological point of view, that what transforms now the individual consciousness. This what completes the process. So in other words, what we speak of here is that rising of the Kundalini is a kind of a must. In tantric spirituality, it's like whatever you want to do after, that is a must. You see, this is like prerequisite. Okay? Then we will talk about whatever we want to do or not do, but that is a must. Because that what restores this calcified system and gives it back fluidity. Flowing wakefulness has at its heart that meaning. Flowing wakefulness. Awake to itself. And the term flowing, it's flow. This means it's not calcified. It's not something static. So this is also why, in terms of the embodiment and full integration, it's spoken in terms of time. This is why even such radical in terms of the discourses, sages like Ramana Maharshi, in response to how long does it take, right? It takes no time, but the process of full embodiment, the process of integration takes between minimum 3 to 12 years. That's the answer given by Ramana Maharshi. Again, it slaps hard to that whole non-dual premise that one just walks out of the satsang self-realized. Because that's what it takes for the full reorganization, for the full, that's what it means, embodied enlightenment, not disembodied enlightenment. Because this is all now linked to the functioning of the rekindled now endocrine system. So now these qualities that maybe were in dormancy, that maybe were suppressed, these divine qualities get revived again. They get revived. So in other words, that divine quality to the body is being returned. Truly. That's what Sri Aurobindo spoke of in terms of divinization of the body. And it's available to absolutely every single one of us, without exception. Because it is within the capacity of our nervous system and our neurophysiology. So, Soma and Ananda.